If you made a New Year's resolution to save money in 2026, we have an update on the retirement savings program called Vermont Saves. It's now a year old. It provides an easy way for workers to save for retirement if they're self-employed or if their employers, like the Vermont Cider Lab in Essex Junction, don't already offer a retirement plan. The employers sign up at no cost, enrolling their staff in a Roth IRA account unless those workers choose to opt out. The Vermont Saves Retirement Initiative is run through the state treasurer's office, which says nearly half of Vermont workplaces don't offer retirement benefits. At the 1-year mark, we have a progress report from State Treasurer Mike Pieciak.
We now have over 1,200 employers that are participating in the program. We have 5,200 individual people that are now saving. They have money in their savings accounts. On average, we see that now those accounts have grown to about $800, $900 per person. And then collectively, among those 5,200 people, they have saved over $4.5 million. So we think that's a lot of great progress early on in that first year. One of the things that we're most excited about is when we look at the demographics of who is saving, 55% of them are under the age of 40, and 30% of them are under the age of 30. So there are a lot of young people saving, which is great because they have time on their side, and saving just a few $100 a month will translate into hundreds of thousands of dollars when they reach retirement age. So it's really working well across the board, but we really like seeing that participation from the younger part of the workforce.
Now, if you're an employer that has 5 or more employees and you do not offer a retirement benefit to your workers as of right now, this program is actually mandatory.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're going to actually change that threshold. We have the authority to do it by rule, and we're in the rulemaking process to bring that number from 5 employees down to 2. So we want more people to be participating in the program, more employers. We think there's a lot of small businesses in that really sort of like 3 or 4 or 5 person range. So more people will be required to sign up. There's no cost to the employer. That was a big part of it for us. If we're going to make it mandatory, we didn't want to add a mandatory cost. And I think most of the employers that we've talked to across the state really see it as a benefit. They see it as a recruitment benefit, and they see it as a retention benefit. We did a tour a couple of months ago where we went around the state and met with an employer in almost every county that is participating in Vermont Saves. And the message that I heard was, hey, you know, the number one thing people ask us about is, can we have a retirement benefit? And it was something I was thinking about, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it, or I couldn't afford it. And then Vermont Saves came along and I was able to provide it at no cost to my employees. And they're very happy and they feel like they're getting real benefits. And this is the first time they felt like they had a real job because they're getting this benefit. So it's really great feedback to hear. And I think for the vast majority of employers, they see this as a tool for them to use to, again, help them in their business.
And these Roth IRAs are portable.
Yeah, exactly right. We have about 500 people of those 4,200 that have multiple employers. So that's somebody that is working for 2 different businesses that are in Vermont Saves. And that means that both employers can save into that program, but they have just one account. So it ports between jobs, whether you're leaving your job to a new job or if you're working multiple jobs with an employer that's in Vermont Saves. So it's very flexible and very easy from that standpoint if you're an employee or if you're an employer as well.
I asked about that mandatory element because, you know, how do you go about enforcing when something's required?
Yeah, so we do have enforcement authority, and I think that was important to get in the statute because you want to have the carrot and the stick. We will be sending out pre-enforcement letters from our office and from our vendor this year, in the early part of this year, because we want to make sure people are aware that this is something that they're required to do, because it is such a huge benefit for their employees, no cost to the employer, and a really efficient system to get set up and running. So we really see that cost-benefit analysis weighing heavily in favor of participating and weighing heavily in favor of benefiting the employee. But our goal is not to bring down the hammer on somebody and provide them penalties and that sort of thing. We want to have that authority, but we want them to sign up and participate on this, on their own, because they see it as a good program that's going to benefit their business and their employees. So that's the work that we'll be doing this year, is making sure those employers that we haven't heard from yet are aware that this program exists and is actually required for them to participate.
Well, we've already heard some great testimonials from savers.
Yeah.
You're automatically opted in. You have to choose to opt out. If you don't even think about it and that money just gets put away, again, it's very effortless. It's something that you will just have at some point to fall back on. If I could give anybody advice, it would be just do it.
One of the few things that it seems that Republicans, Democrats, progressives, and independents can all agree on is that Vermont is an awfully expensive place to live.
Yes.
And it can be, therefore, a very tough place to save for your retirement. That said, you have an ask of the legislature this year that would help some people save some money on their monthly expenses. I understand that this is sort of like a savings club card on prescription drugs?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, this is something that the Connecticut comptroller mentioned to me a couple of years ago, saying, hey, we implemented this program in Connecticut. It's working really well. You should look at it in Vermont. And we kept a close eye on it, saw how the rollout went, and said, I think this is something we should bring to our state because it is working well in Connecticut and saving people money. So it's the state of Oregon and Washington that have created this collaborative that other states can join and participate in a discount pharmacy card. And on average, the people that are using this discount pharmacy card in Connecticut and in Oregon and in Washington, they're saving $200 a month on their prescriptions. So pretty significant savings. And healthcare costs are so high in our state, they're high across the board, but they're one of the largest growing expenses that people are paying. So when we're talking about affordability issues, healthcare is right at the top of making affordability a challenge in our state. So something we can do like this, where you can save a few $100s a month potentially on those necessary prescription drugs that people are taking to keep themselves healthy. We see that as a big win for for everyday Vermonters.
And this, of course, will be debated in the weeks and months ahead in the State House. But broadly, is there much of a cost to Vermont to participate in this savings card?
Yeah, well, it's one of the reasons that we were interested in this program after doing the due diligence. We like to find programs that have a big impact without having a big price tag. It's the same as Vermont Saves. It's having this big impact, but as a relatively small price tag. Same thing with this program. There's no cost to the state. There's no cost to individuals to sign up and get a card either. There's no cost when they use the card. It's all baked into the pricing, sort of the cost of running the program. The only thing that we will need and ask for is some small one-time money to get the program up and running and make Vermonters aware that it exists and help them sign up and find those partnerships to help us spread the word as well. But other than that, there's no baked in cost for the state, which makes it really appealing that you can provide that kind of cost relief for Vermonters that sign up without adding cost to our office or to the taxpayers.
And for people who want to tune into our ongoing coverage from the State House here on NBC5, the name of this program that they can pay attention and listen for.
Yeah, so it's called Array RX. That's the name of the collaborative in Washington and Oregon. And now there's maybe a half a dozen or a dozen states that are participating in that. There are a lot of different programs you can participate in, but this prescription drug card we think is a great place for us to start. But we'll also get the benefit of hearing what these other states are up to in the healthcare space. And I think we have a lot to learn about how can we transform our healthcare system and make it more accessible, but also more affordable.
Another thing that you'll be busy with in 2026 is continuing to establish your baby bonds project. There's a pilot that you're working on focused, for starters, on the Northeast Kingdom. You had a big event recently in late 2025 with M&T Bank. They invested significantly in this.
Baby bonds are a birthright to capital, ensuring the poorest children and families can have hope for the future. We are so proud to commit $300,000 to launch this program here in the Northeast Kingdom. When we invest in our children, we invest in our community and our state's future.
We hope to have the program launched by the end of the year, so we're really bullish on sort of being able to get the resources that we need this year and to get sort of the operational questions answered, so we're in a position to actually launch it in the fall of 2026. What we're actually doing with the pilot is we're expanding it a little bit. We're calling the pilot First Steps Forward, and it's going to include a baby bond for every child born into poverty in the Northeast Kingdom, but it's also going to provide mental health support for new mothers when they're pregnant and after pregnancy, and then also a direct cash payment as well as diapers and other necessary things for a new child, again, that's born into poverty. So it's providing these things that are immediate supports, like mental health services, like diapers, like a direct cash payment for that first year after the birth. But it's also combining that with that long-term investment of a baby bond, $3,200 that will be invested for that child that they can claim when they reach the age of 18 to buy a house in Vermont, start a business in Vermont, roll it over into the retirement or for education or job training. So there are 4 things that can be done that are wealth creating activities and things that are tying people more into the Vermont economy.
Baby bonds do not just respond to poverty, but they actively disrupt it. By investing in children from birth and ensuring that they enter adulthood with meaningful financial assets, baby bonds have the power to change a young person's trajectory. This is about creating possibilities. It's about affirming that eligible children, no matter their family circumstances or where they began, deserve a future that we're all willing to invest in.
And long term, it's really about how do we help these kids be successful in their lives and afford to do it in Vermont. So we're really excited about the prospect of getting that launched. And longer term, what we hope, this is going to be focused on the Kingdom, because the Kingdom is one of the poorest parts of our state, and we have more children born into poverty as a percentage in the Kingdom than pretty much anywhere else in our state. So it's a great place in terms of the need, and it's a great place in terms of the opportunity to bring a program like this. But we'd like to expand it statewide. We'd like to make it permanent, but we want to be able to capture the benefit in the Kingdom and then make that argument down the road for why this should be a permanent statewide program.
Finally, something that you'll be working on in 2026, as you do every year, is returning missing money to Vermonters. People's own funds that for whatever reason are sitting in an account managed by your office.
Missingmoney.com is our website, and we have $150 million of unclaimed property for Vermonters. And we've done a lot to try to promote that website and promote the fact that there is such a significant amount of unclaimed property. We've seen our claims volume go up dramatically over the last few years. We've seen the amount of payments that we're making go up dramatically over the last few years. But even with that progress, we're still getting more money into our office than we're able to pay out every year by quite a bit. So that unclaimed property money is growing and growing and growing. So there's always more work to be done. One of the things we just wrapped up at the end of 2025 was a program that we established called the Money Back Program, where we automatically match Vermonters with data that we have in our office and data that exists already in state government to verify that it is their money and to verify the most recent mailing address that's accurate for them. And then we automatically send them a letter saying you have X amount of money in our office and we'll be sending you a check in 2 weeks. And then we follow that up with a check. So it's a way of getting people their money directly in their pocket. It certainly helps with the affordability issues of getting a few $100s that you're unexpectedly getting at the end of the year can go a long way for a lot of families. So that's one of the initiatives we hope to make permanent and expand in the future as well, trying to have this sort of automatic way to get people's money back.
Once again, the website that people should go to search their names to see if they have unclaimed property?
So missingmoney.com is the best website. We have our own treasurer's website, but the reason that I direct people to that is it's a Treasurers Association website. So it's all of the treasurers across the country. So if you ever lived in another location, you search on that site, missingmoney.com, and we'll pull up all the various places across the country where you might have unclaimed property.
State Treasurer Mike Pieciak, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well, Jack. Thanks for having me.